Hey everybody, it's Janae Wisnick with the Mother's Treasure Painting Studio. Tonight we're painting this really cute rocking horse from Diverse Woodworking. As you can see, I've gone ahead and outlined everything, but I'm about to freak you out. I'm going to paint over it all. Are ready? No, okay. Okay, no, really, I'm going to do it. Seriously. We're going to paint over everything, and you'll see why in a little bit. So go ahead and put your base coat over the entire rocking horse. Now, what you could do is what I did, where you trace it all on with chalk, then you paint over it. What I found that was really interesting in a painting I did before this one was that after I painted over it and it dried, the chalk outline was still there, just really faint. So I thought, I'm going to give that a try instead of working around all these little nooks and crannies. So go ahead and chalk yours if you want to, or go ahead and just give it a base coat and then add the chalk later. It's up to you. So while you're working on your base coat, let me remind you that you don't need to feel rushed and you don't need to worry about keeping up with me. This video is pre-recorded, so you can stop it and start it at any time. You can also pause it and just give yourself a little extra time to catch up if you need to. Okay, now that I'm done with my base coat, I'm going to pick up the hair dryer and dry it. And what's really neat about this is all of that shininess is going to go away because once it's dry, it's no longer shiny. And we should probably be able to see our outlines through this once it's dry. There they are. Can you see them popping out? I hope you guys can see those outlines. So I'm going to pick up my chalk and go ahead and go back over them just to give myself a guide. So what I really like about using the chalk is that you don't have to stick with it. If you're drawing and you decide you don't like a design, then you can erase it and start over. That's always a lot easier. Look, I just did it the wrong way. So let me wipe it off and start over. Anyway, that's a lot easier than using a pencil and trying to erase. This you can just wipe right over, and sometimes just a little bit of a damp paintbrush with water will take it right off. Okay, so now I'm done with the horse piece of it, and I'm trying to decide what I'm going to put down here on the bottom, so we'll just have to see what we feel when we get there. Okay, so now I'm going to start going over the chalk outline with my round brush, my thin tip round brush. And one of the tips that I wanted to let you know about is that when you're going over the chalk outline with your paint, it will dry out your brush a little bit faster than usual. So you may want to load your brush really well, and you may even have to load it several times. You're not doing anything wrong if that's what happens and it seems a little bit funny to you. So just carry on. You're doing great. Something you may have noticed is that I'm not covering up this chalk 100%. You'll still see a little bit of chalk shining through. That's okay, don't worry about that, because like I mentioned earlier, chalk wipes off really easy. So we'll clean all that up at the end. Right now I'm going to go ahead and just add a few little squigglies into the mane here and there to finish it off. I didn't have these chalk outlined, but if you feel more comfortable doing it that way, go ahead and add your chalk outlines for the mane and then just paint right over them. Okay, so now I'm going to paint the saddle. I'm going to paint right over some of this brown with teal. You can pick any color you want. You don't have to do everything the same way that I am. You can pick pink, you can pick purple, any color you want. You'll notice that I'm doing this with a larger flat brush. It's just a lot easier to cover more space that way. And there's no nooks and crannies, no little tiny corners I need to get into, so a nice flat brush works perfect for this. Moving on over to the other pieces of the saddle. You can change the color if you want, or you can leave it the same. I'm going to go with black. while I have my black loaded up on my thin little round brush, I'm going to go ahead and start with my outlines. You can see I'm just filling in the nose, and then I'll fill in the mouth, and then I'll start working on outlining the rest of my horse. So right here, you're going to want to make sure to give that little curve there so that it looks like a horse's leg. If you stop right up here where the wood cutout stops, it's going to look a little funny. So just bring that line on up and give it a little curve. Remember that funny little curve we did with the leg? We're going to do the same thing on the front leg. And then we're just going to continue on around the rest of the horse with our outline. And so now we'll go ahead and outline the saddle while we're here. And I've been debating on what to do with this heart the whole time. So what I think I'm going to do is fill it in with teal, the same color as my saddle, and then give it a black outline. Okay, so while that's drying, I think I'm going to go over here and try to erase some of this chalk outline that's still hanging out. Now my brush is just a tiny bit damp and it's picking up the flakes of the chalk, and I'm wiping them off with my finger. If that doesn't work and it still leaves a little bit of a chalk residue, just leave it and we'll come back to it later. Here's my white. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of water in there with it to thin it down. And I'm going to go ahead and go around some different areas of the horse just to give it a little bit of a white highlight to help it pop. And so now I just need to outline my little heart and we'll be done with the horse. Next, we need to figure out what we're going to write on the bottom. I'm writing, "It's a boy." I'm starting with the A because I want the A to be in the center of the horse. And then I'll come back at the end and write "it's." As you can see, I'm using chalk because if I don't like it, I can always erase it and try again. Okay, I think I like that. So now I'm going to pick up my angle brush. It's a small angle brush, and I'm going to use that to do my lettering. Those always work best for me. Just keep going over those chalk outlines just like I am. Then we'll get the hairdryer and dry it. Then we'll add a little bit of a shadow. Now that it's dry, I'm going to add the shadow. In order to do that, you're going to need a very thin, tiny brush. You're going to want thin, smoothed out black paint. Make sure there's no extra water on there. And then you're going to come in and you're going to outline just the bottom and the right side of the letter. You'll notice I didn't highlight the top of the eye because I'm wanting it to look like a shadow, so that shadow is going to be cast to the lower right hand side of the letter. This part of the project generally takes a very steady hand and a lot of patience and a lot of practice. I still goof up and highlight wrong sections of the letters all the time. So if that's something that you do, don't sweat it. All you got to do is let it dry and then paint back over it, and you can start over again with it. It's not as scary as it sounds. My letters are all done now, so I'm going to finish off the bottom of the rocker. So the rocker's done. I still think it needs a little something, so I'm going to take one of the paintbrushes, the opposite end, the stick end, and I'm going to dip it in the paint, and then I'm going to put a little dot along the outlines of this harness and the saddle. Just a little dot. It's nothing fancy, but it brings a little pop of that teal color throughout the rest of the piece. And now just to tie it all together, maybe a couple dots down here in between my words. And just do that with black. And you can see I'm doing it with the stick end of the brush. That gives you the best circles. And I believe that's it. All done. Let's dry it and see how we like it. Okay, there we have it. All done. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. Run over to Diverse Woodworking and grab you a rocky horse.